So we will get started. Asking everyone to please, if you have not already, please mute your phones unless you're a presenter, and we will unmute you when it is your time to speak. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon for this Promise of Place webinar through the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, focusing on excellence and lifting up the city of Seattle, Washington, a city on the horizon. This webinar is part of a series of webinars that will highlight the cities that are measured in the first Promise of Place report. We are excited to have some very dynamic presenters from Seattle on the call today, and we will get started first with a little bit of background about the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. And I want to introduce Sheba Rogers and Christopher Rutherford, Promise of Place managers with the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. They are based out of Detroit. Thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to Sheba and Chris. Give us one moment. We're having a bit of technical issues getting them on. One moment, please, everyone.
The conference has been unmuted.
Sheba, are you there?
Yes, Latrina, I'm here. Are we all set?
We're all set. You can go ahead. Thank you. Apologies, everyone.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So I'll just continue with a brief background of the Promise of Place webinar series. One of the main purposes of the webinar series is to remain in conversation and discussion on how we mobilize, how we leverage and sustain our commitment, our efforts and practices to advance the well-being of our country's Black men and boys. Over the past few years, notably since President Barack Obama launched the My Brother's Keeper initiative and the MBK City Challenge, we have seen greater attention and support dedicated to addressing the challenges and barriers faced by our country's Black men and boys. And so we find it extremely important to uplift good work, best practices, and research from the field through these webinars. And so we want to continue to kick off with Seattle One today. But just a little bit more background. In 2015, the Campaign for Black Male Achievement released the Promise of Place report, which sparked significant attention and engagement within cities to bolster their work to support Black men and boys. And so building off of the momentum of the report, we launched the first 3 Promise of Place webinars last year in 2016, featuring Black male achievement work in Louisville, Milwaukee, and Baltimore. Today marks our 4th webinar series this year, following presentations of work in Detroit, Oakland, and Palm Beach. In the Promise of Place report, we highlight 3 action steps which continue to guide our conversations and our webinars around this work. And those 3 action steps included collective work and responsibility, creating space for all concerned, bound together by commitment and accountability. 2, respect and recognition, affirming and reimagining Black men and boys as assets in our communities. And 3, bold goals and outcomes, setting aspirational goals to guide collective work. So today's webinar will be jam-packed with information, including insight from Seattle's local leaders on their successes and their challenges, as well as a number of partnerships that they have going on. We'll also uplift strategies that we all can learn from and potentially incorporate in our own work. as well as lift up insights and updates on current and future CBMA field engagement efforts.
Good afternoon, everyone. So a little bit about the history of CBMA. In 2008, the Campaign for Black Male Achievement was launched under the auspices of the Open Society Foundation. It's originally intended to be a 3-year campaign focusing on improving outcomes for black men and boys. CBMA has withstood the test of time and continues to serve as a catalyst for the field of black male achievement. Since its launch, CBMA has focused on supporting leaders who have been committed to black men and boys for generations and has contributed to the development of new organizations and new groups of leaders, including My Brother's Keeper Alliance, Cities United, Be Me, the Echoing Green Black Male Achievement Fellowship, the Oakland Unified School District Office of African American Male Achievement, and Young Men's Initiative in New York City, as well as many more. Next slide, please. CBMA is proud to work with and support and learn from our partners across the nation. The membership network includes over 5,200 leaders representing more than 2,700 organizations. On our website, you can check out the work of many of our members, so please feel free to learn more about our membership there. And if you have not already signed up to be a part of CBMA membership, the membership network, please feel free to sign up on our website, as we would love to stay engaged with all of you. So we would also like to take the time to thank our funders. CBMA enjoys the opportunity to acknowledge our funders who have been instrumental in our startup and continues to support our work as we deepen and expand our efforts nationally and across local cities. Our funding partners include Open Society Foundation, the William R. Keenan Jr. Charitable Trust, Casey Family Programs, the Heinz Endowment, J.P. Morgan Chase, Ford Foundation, the California Endowment, Carnegie Corporation of New York, the Chicago Community Trust, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Caper Foundation, as well as other programs that we have seeded. We also would like to thank the American Express Foundation. So CBMA offers a wide array of resources to support growth. CBMA has worked to pull together a number of resources to engage and support the field of black male achievement. These resources offer a wide array of tools and strategies to support the growth, sustainability, and impact of its members in the national black male achievement field. So first, the Promise of Place report, Cities Advancing Black Male Achievement, which was issued December 2015. It was a first of its kind report to track and communicate cities' efforts to advance black male achievement. Building a Beloved Community, which strengthening the field of black male achievement, which was started in May 2014. Building on the groundbreaking report, Where Do We Go From Here? Philanthropic Support for Black Men and Boys. This companion piece explores the diverse, multidisciplinary, and cross-sector work to advance black male achievement. Also, Quantifying Hope, Philanthropic Support for Black Men and Boys, which was released April 2015. This report analyzes U.S. funding trends for black men and boys and describes recent initiatives in the field of black male achievement. And then also, Where Do We Go From Here? Philanthropic Support for Black Men and Boys was released October 2012. Drawing on 8 years of grants, data, and 20 years of history, this report describes important trends in foundation funding for black men and boys.
So now we want to take just a few minutes to briefly highlight the Promise of Place report, as it is a great tool and resource to stay engaged in this work. In 2015, the Campaign for Black Male Achievement released this nationally recognized report, which documented city-level contributions and initiatives that support and advance opportunities and outcomes for black men and boys. The Promise of Place report unveiled the Black Male Achievement City Index, which scored 50 cities based on their visible level of engagement and committed action on behalf of black men and boys. The 50 cities scored in this report are home to approximately 5.5 million black males, which is more than 30% of all black men and boys in the country. Cities receive scores out of 100 total points based on categories assessing their committed action as well as their engagement. And the median score across the 50 cities was 53 points. The methodology used for scoring cities included 5 key categories. We looked at demographic mix, so that included the presence of black men and boys as a percentage of the total male population in that city. We also looked at city-led commitment to black men and boys, and so in that category, we typically looked at initiatives out of the mayor's office or initiatives supported by the city. We also looked at the CBMA membership, which included 20 points for that category. Including, number 4, we looked at national initiatives supporting black men and boys. So it's a number of national initiatives that cities can be a part of and sign up for. So we looked at sort of the presence of those. And then the 5th one, we looked at targeted funding and support for black men and boys at sort of a philanthropic level. So those were the 5 categories totaling to 100 points. Several of the categories include between 1 and 3 sub-initiatives that help to comprise the ranking. So, for example, under city-led commitment to black men and boys, there are 3 categories totaling to 30 points. So I just kind of want to break that down a little bit if we go to the next slide. So, for example, in the city-led commitment to black men and boys, there's 3 sub-initiatives. And so, for example, Seattle, that's the one we're looking at today, city-led initiative supporting black men and boys, the city score there was 0, but the max was a 15. And that includes sort of their, if you will, homegrown city-led initiative. At that time, they didn't have it, but today we are going to hear about one of their own homegrown initiatives that they're leading. My Brother's Keeper initiative, they did have a presence of that. And the city score for that was a 10, and that also was the max score for that category. And then for the city-led commitment, we see Cities United. So they do, Seattle has a presence of that in their city, which included 5 points, and that was the max for that scoring. So they did have a total of 15 points for the city-led commitment to black men and boys. We just wanted to give you an example of how the scoring was broken down for the scorecard. And you can absolutely check out your own city scorecard on our website by going to blackmaleachievement.org. And you can see your city or other cities that were included in the 50 that were ranked. Again, we know that Seattle is doing a lot of work and have launched several new initiatives. So we imagine in the upcoming Promise of Place report, we might see a higher score for Seattle because they're doing some really great things. And speaking of the next iteration of the Promise of Place report, we are now underway with writing and updating the work that was done in the first report. We are very excited about the new report to be released later this year. So please be on the lookout for that and continue to stay engaged with us. But just a couple of highlights of our new report that we're working on, the 2017 report. It will track progress made since the first report on the 5 data categories previously measured across the 50 cities as a way to see how cities have been advancing their black male achievement field over the past 2 years. The report will also feature in-depth profiles of the core dynamics and field building blocks of CBMA's core cities, including Detroit, Oakland, Louisville, Milwaukee, and Baltimore. And we will also lift up in the report cities that were not originally scored that have been emerging with promising activities on behalf of black men and boys. So we're very excited about the 2017 report. So please continue to just stay engaged with our webinar series as we continue to release additional information as we lead up to the release of the 2017 report. And there are a number of ways that CBMA works to keep abreast of the work happening in cities and communities. Our website is really an important engagement tool for us as well as for the field. Please use the blackmaleachievement.org website to submit new information that can be featured on your city-specific page and will also help to feed information that goes into some of our future reports. So we really do appreciate the updates on our website. And so just to get us kicked off and jumping right into our Seattle speakers, I want to pass it right back on over to Latrina to give us an overview of the Seattle work and introduce our speakers.
Thank you, Sheba. So we are highlighting Seattle, Washington as a city with promising action. Seattle is one of the cities tracked in CBMA's 2015 Promise of Place report. And since then, Seattle has increased its engagement and committed action to Black men and boys through collective work to mobilize both national and local BMA stakeholders, including government, philanthropic communities, national chapters, initiative chapters, schools, and community. And we're very excited because in 2017, Seattle launched Our Best, Seattle's commitment to Black men and boys, the city's first ever initiative specifically aimed at expanding and improving life outcomes for young Black men and boys. It has committed to this work within education, employment, safety, and positive connections to caring adults. Seattle is also the home to 12 national initiatives supporting Black men and boys, and we're going to hear a lot about that with our presenters very shortly. So without further ado, I want to announce our first speaker, Anthony Shoecraft. He is Special Advisor to the Mayor on Black Male Achievement in the City of Seattle. Thank you, Anthony, for joining us.
Good afternoon, Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for that introduction. It's very kind of you. And good afternoon to everybody on the that's patched in here to the webinar. You know, it's humbling to share alongside my co-presenters elements with you all of our Black Male Achievement Landscape and Initiative, Our Best for the City of Seattle. On behalf of our Mayor Ed Murray and our beautiful community, the Emerald City of Seattle, I do want to offer deep appreciation and just heartfelt love to the entire team at CBMA for this opportunity, especially our dear brothers, Sean Dove and Robert Simmons. Our goal for today is to really do kind of a high-level walkthrough of the why, the what, and the how behind our emergent initiative, Our Best. And specifically, we really want to socialize the audience to the origin story behind Our Best and the strategic framework and early actions that we've adopted and prioritized for the first phase of our work. Next slide, please. So I don't need to see all the faces that have patched into the webinar to know that at least 10 of y'all, if not 30 of you, ask yourself if there are any Black people in Seattle. And so while the sentiment is a little tongue-in-cheek, a very fitting frame for setting the context for our city. Because Seattle is only a city of 700,000 residents or so, 8% of whom are Black. We are a majority white city. 64% of Seattle is white, 13% are Asian, 17% Latino, and then about 1% of our community is of indigenous or Native American descent. When you look at our school district, in addition, there's only about 55,000 students, and 16% of the student population in Seattle Public Schools is Black or of African descent, and that breaks down to roughly about 9,000 students, about half of which are Black males. See, Seattle has quite the reputation for being a progressive sort of city. Historically, Seattle, as it turns out, is nested in the only county in the United States that's actually named after Dr. King. So Seattle sits in Martin Luther King Jr. County. Typically, the city of Seattle tends to be like a first or early adopter of a lot of progressive movements and policymaking, and just to name a few, from same-sex marriage to legalized marijuana to $15 minimum wage. We're only a few weeks removed from our city council actually adopting a pretty progressive tax, income tax, on the top earning residents, just to name a few. And actually within the walls of the city of Seattle, we have in our Office of Civil Rights, you know, we have a unique program of its kind, actually the first in the country, going back about 15 years ago in the Race and Social Justice Initiative, which is a program that's really dedicated to holding public officials accountable to racial equity and eliminating institutional racism and race-based disparities in city government. And when we think about Seattle within an economic context, you know, as of June, Washington State was ranked the best economy in the U.S., largely driven by the economy of Seattle, right? No doubt folks know about Amazon and Boeing and Expedia and Microsoft being here. And in fact, 2 of the top 5 richest billionaires in the world call Seattle home, Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. When you look at the list and extend it to the top 45, we have 4 of the top 50 richest billionaires in the world. And yet we exist in a very unique paradox, unconscionable disparities in education. Black students in Seattle public schools are suspended at 8 times that of their white counterparts. The top 5, or the bottom 5 districts for closing the achievement gaps in the country, we find ourselves in that cohort, from 3rd grade reading, 8th grade math, high school graduation, post-secondary rates, and even within unemployment rate. When you look at the black males between the ages of 18 to 24, unemployment for black males in Seattle is about 4 times higher than their counterparts. Homelessness and housing affordability, black men are disproportionately represented within that space as well. And as you know, like many cities, we're facing this crisis. And, about 10 years ago, the Sentencing Project did a report and found that Washington State had higher disparities between how we incarcerate those of African descent and white adults had higher rates than every single southern state in the Union. So I use that as context because we have this prosperity, but we have such stark racially identifiable outcomes, specifically, for black males. Next slide, please. Think about our best. We're about 6 months, almost to the day, where the mayor launched our best, and he announced it during the State of the City address. That was really on the heels of a series of community engagement and listening sessions with young black men. The name Our Best actually derives its name from those listening sessions. When we listen to young black men around what do they see for themselves in the future and what they wish for their city, they told us very frankly in no plain terms, the health of black men is essential to the health of Seattle. If we're at our best, then Seattle will benefit. The name also derives inspiration from the ancestor, Brother Malcolm, who was eulogized by the other great ancestor, Brother Ozzie Davis. And when he said, in honoring Brother Malcolm, we are actually honoring the best of who we are. So we felt the name / the branding, if you will, for the initiative was really fitting for that. So that's why we have the name. And when the mayor actually launched Our Best back in February, he actually announced the creation of a new position, my role, to be sort of the dedicated staff person and leader for the city to really operationalize his work across the city government. We also adopted a vision for this work, whereby the year 2035, black men and boys are living with dignity, they're valued, and they're supported to live in Seattle by having equitable access to its landscape of opportunities. Why the year 25 is that's the year of our city's comprehensive plan, and so we really wanted to align that future orientation from a systems and structural point of view. 1 or 2 quick pieces of significance about the announcement of Our Best. As progressive as Seattle is, we've never taken an explicit and unapologetic and focused sort of effort for young black men and boys. The other piece is, too, when you look at the history of Seattle and many sort of racial equity and sort of progressive efforts, we've been very program heavy. Our Best will focus both programmatically but deep focus around systems change and alignment. A few other things I want to call out on this slide is, while, again, Our Best is a little historic for the city of Seattle, it also sort of builds on this administration's kind of existing track record of really investing in young black men and boys. I don't have all the time to enumerate all of them, but in our Department of Education and Early Learning, we have a Families in Education levy, 7-year levy, that is primarily focused on closing gaps in Seattle schools. We have another initiative around economic mobility and employment. It's called Priority Hire. Highly encourage folks to Google Career Bridge, Seattle Youth Violence Prevention Initiative, Priority Hire. I should say, with respect to our Seattle Youth Violence Prevention Initiative, we are a Cities United City and as well as a Marvelous Keeper City, but our SYVPI initiative is actually going to be refreshed as our citywide community safety strategy. Last year we also adopted we had an education summit. We adopted a goal of earning post-secondary credential, and so we're forming partnerships with our higher ed communities. We're really proud to announce that with the leadership of the president of the Seattle Community College System, or the Seattle Central College, Dr. Sheila Edwards-Lang, we are actually forming an alliance to guarantee admissions for black students, particularly black males, to guaranteed admissions to HBCU. So we've just got Grambling, Southern on board, to name some other examples around some of the systems alignment and collaboration. With respect to the first phase of Our Best, we took a few early steps, and the first one is, and actually really quickly, would you mind going to the very next slide so I can reference the framework? So what you see here is kind of our strategic framework for Our Best. Up top you see Mayor's Youth Opportunity Initiative. This initiative represents a cabinet of director-level leaders that represent fully $100 million of annual investments in youth development outcomes. Our Best and the work of Black Male Achievement is actually embedded across those pillars. And what we've done with this is really focused on, like I said, alignment and driving coordinated decision-making, right? And so Our Best, just to call out for you all, Our Best is actually grounded in this larger citywide initiative. And actually, so to go back to the previous slide, if you will, when you look at our first early action, number one, positive connections. And again, Our Best is really aimed at driving impact in 5 areas: positive connections to caring adults, education, not employment, but it's economic mobility, safety, and then health. And so our early actions were for our education pillars and our positive connections. What we heard from 2015 to this year is that from our young black men who are from the LGBTQ community, who are experiencing homelessness, who are in child welfare, who are that are systems involved, they want mentors that look like them, and they want mentors in their lives. So we added investment. We collaborated with National Cares Mentoring and the actual local affiliate. You'll hear from Brother Stephen Powell from National Cares on this collaboration. Secondly, we've been doing a lot of community building with our brothers and sisters. Shout out to Brother Chris Chapman from Oakland and in our school system around piloting a curriculum and elective courses for our black males and black students. That's going to kick off this fall. We added some investments, some public and private investments to kick off this pilot collaboration. And because our work has a long-term orientation, we established an Our Best Advisory Council that's comprised of black leadership that is from grassroots, community-based, and nonprofit sectors all the way up to private sector and philanthropic. To that point around doing this work together and not alone, because the city can't do this work alone, we have an underlying belief that we need to stay in our lane. The city is responsible for a lot of harm being done in communities, particularly for black men, but we do have a role to play. And to respect the legacy of long-standing work that's been happening within our community, we're committed to staying in that lane. And so this sort of visual you see on the bottom of your page is really intended to call that out. We have resources to bear as a city, so by that we look at that as our role as an investor in changing the narrative and shifting systems around outcomes for young black men and boys. We have a role to play in convening the private sector, institutional leaders, even community leaders as well. Again, I offer the example with Seattle Community College and HBCUs as one example. So we look at our role as also being a convener. And because we have the pulpit of the mayor's office, we have the pulpit of the legislative pen, by virtue of that, we look at this as really us being a leader and advocating for improving life outcomes for young black men and boys. We've also adopted a unapologetic sort of strategy and theory of change that is targeted universalism. So those combined really create how we're going to go about, or how we see ourselves achieving our long-term goal toward our 2035 action plan. Somewhat of a crash course in that I want to shift to some of our other presenters and really have them sort of unearth in more concrete ways some of the more actionable steps that we're taking in our very early work around Our Best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony, for that very robust overview of the City of Seattle's Our Best initiative. We're going to go on to our next presenter. We have Mr. Gregory Davis. He is manager of the Technical Assistance Unit with Casey Family Programs in Seattle. Thank you very much, Gregory, for joining us today.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, and thanks for the inclusion. And so I'm with Casey Family Programs, and we're supporting this work financially through technical assistance, providing loan to executives, and as you can see by the slide, expert facilitation to support the work. But let me first give a little background on Casey Family Programs. Founded in 1966 by Jim Casey, who's the founder of UPS. Casey Family Programs is the largest operating foundation in America, focusing exclusively on foster care. And, you know, these are our most vulnerable young people, people who are not in their homes. And as it turns out, black males are disproportionately represented in this system. Casey's mission is to provide, improve, and eventually prevent the need for foster care. And so to do this, we're focusing on reducing the need for foster care by 50% by the year 2020 and building communities of hope. Communities of hope are essentially solutions that reach children within the context of their families and their communities. This thrust has Casey's leadership through our CEO, Dr. William Bell, go deeper and move Casey to take up the cause of the plight of the black male. This led to the investment and startup of Cities United, led by their CEO, Anthony Smith. And, you know, since 2016, Casey has invested $130 million in supporting youth and families in this country, and since 1966, it's been $2.5 billion. And so what we're doing to support the Our Best initiative in the city of Seattle, which is in fact our home city, the state of Washington being our home state, specifically providing capacity building support, systems alignment support, and facilitation support. In terms of capacity building, you know, we understand that workforce stewarding these types of initiatives, particularly within the city of Seattle or within child welfare jurisdictions, that we need highly skilled leadership to take on this complex work. So things as subtle as meeting management, facilitation, we want people, particularly in this work, to be masters at these particular areas. And so that's the area when we talk about capacity building that we're focusing on with the Our Best initiative. Another area of support that Casey is providing some technical assistance on is systems alignment. You know, this effort has us pulling the practice of implementation science into this work. And implementation science is basically an approach to fill the science/research to service gap. You know, another way to say that is to influence the full and effective use of innovation in practice. And this is really critical when we're trying to implement a black male achievement effort, and I'll say a community-based black male achievement effort within institutions and municipalities. Complex piece of work need a tried and true methodology to get that successful, and we're bringing the tenets of implementation science into that work. And particularly in an area where African American males make up 4% of the total population. And the question often being asked, well, why black males? And so it's critical that we have evidence-based methodologies to help us do this work. You know, the last two areas of support that we're providing is expert facilitation. You know, we've got the brightest and the best and the most influential folk who are part of the Our Best Advisory Committee. And so we need expert facilitation to support them ultimately in building their action plan for the black males in the city of Seattle. And so that's another area of technical assistance. And we've also have embedded in the City of Seattle a loans executive who helped the City of Seattle's Department of Education and Early Learning with their startup and provided some technical assistance and content expertise on its educational summit. And so that's how Casey Family Programs is leaning in to support the Our Best initiative. So I'll end it there. Welcome questions at the appointed time, and we'll turn it over to my other colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for that great overview of Casey Family Programs and its connection to Black men and boys in Seattle. I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Dr. Brent Jones. He's the Chief Strategy and Partnerships Officer with Seattle Public Schools. Thank you, Dr. Jones, for joining us.
Thank you for your partnership on this. I appreciate my colleagues, Anthony and Gregory, and what that leads us into is our relationship with the city and our funders. And in my role as the Chief of Strategy and Partnership, one of my central roles is to embed equity into all of our strategies, both internally and externally, and want to ensure that our 280-plus partners have equity, African-American males, at the forefront of their planning and their thinking and their service to us. And so one of the things that we're able to do is leverage our policy framework. We have a policy 0030 that ensures educational and racial equity, and at Seattle Public Schools we have a specific focus on African American males. And why this is important is we help build this policy with our partnership with the city. The City of Seattle has a strong focus on social justice and race and equity, and we are using some of their knowledge and some of their wisdom about implementing the policy. We were the second school district in the nation to have such a policy, but the creation of the policy in 2012 was relatively easy, but the implementation of the policy is where we've had to do a lot of our work. And so the City of Seattle and their efforts have been very complimentary to us, and we've gone back and forth around how do you implement such a policy in a climate that's really not ready to focus on primarily African American males. But as Anthony talked about previously, we've been unapologetic about this, and we've been leveraging our policy to go forward in that regard. And so our policy talks about equitable access. We use a racial equity analysis tool. We focus on workforce equity. We have robust professional development. We're focusing on welcoming school environments, partnerships, as I mentioned, multiple pathways to success, and then recognizing diversity as our strength. So moving forward on the list, mentoring. Mentoring is a piece that we've talked about that is just critical to us. We have lots of scholars that talk about the relationships are critical to African American male success. And so we were one of the first cohorts to come out with the My Brother's Keeper initiative, and we've had great success in that implementation. We're seeing tangible breakthroughs. We're seeing young men be proficient. We're seeing young men, we're curbing our chronic absenteeism with these young men, and bringing on mentoring cares to expand this program is going to be very helpful to us moving forward. Brother Shoecraft talked about the city staying in their lane, and the city has been just tremendous support to us in funding. And part of the funding that they are providing the school district is all tied to equity. And we've been able to pinpoint that to African American male achievement. And so the city's efforts have helped us with using racial equity as a focus for our systemic change. One of the highlight areas that we're working with Oakland Unified School District on is piloting a curriculum and elective classes that focus on leadership skills and positive identity development. I think that partnership with Oakland is helping us to see how we can implement effectively moving forward. The other place that I want to really emphasize is this is accountability for us. The superintendent and the board goal around eliminating opportunity gaps is what he's evaluated on. And we have very we have lots of focus areas within those goals to focus on access. We want to make sure our young black men have access to high-quality instruction and all the learning supports that are afforded to other students. We've traditionally underserved African-American males for many years, but now we have focused on what the adults are doing in the system to make sure that we are eliminating the opportunity gaps and becoming an organization that's instituting racial equity instead of instituting institutional racism. We're instituting racial equity. To do that, we've been focusing on becoming an anti-racist learning organization, and this is informed by community voice. We have, and I missed the point up here, but we have an African-American male advisory committee that's made up of 70-plus members from the community. We meet monthly, and they are teeing up areas that we need to emphasize, that the community is saying, Seattle Public Schools, we need you to be focused on these specific areas. And so we've been using their wisdom and their guidance to inform our practices, and our professional development offerings are informed by that. Our goal setting is informed by that. Our strategic planning is informed by that. And the city of Seattle have been instrumental in helping us to manage and navigate those waters. And so we also have what's called race and equity teams, and these race and equity teams are designed to build capacity and awareness. Again, the city has been involved with helping us with those areas as well. So we are in the infancy stages of working with the city on the Our Best initiative, but we are aligning around black male achievement, and I think over the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, you're going to see us be able to execute and have some results that are going to be very promising in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, for that overview of Seattle Public Schools and its movement with black male achievement. Our final presenter is Mr. Stephen Powell. He's the Chief Program Officer with the National Care Mentoring Movement. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very used to running the anchor leg, so my pleasure to join all of you this afternoon. I just want to thank the CBMA family for just being the treasure to our field and for having me and our other distinguished co-presenters, and want to specifically thank Anthony Shoecraft for just believing in our work. As you mentioned, I am Stephen Powell, the Chief Program Officer of the National Cares Mentoring Movement. I am calling in from New York, where we are based, but I am standing in for our Seattle Cares affiliate leaders, Donald and Hazel Cameron. Hazel is actually undergoing surgery today, so I proudly stand in for her. For those of you who don't know, the National Cares Mentoring Movement was founded in 2006 in the wake of Hurricane Katrina as Essence Cares, while Susan L. Taylor was the chief editor of Essence Magazine. And solely the mission of the National Cares Mentoring Movement is to secure and transform the lives of our gravely under-resourced children by inspiring, recruiting, and mobilizing masses of caring black men and women to mentor and nourish them. We are a community mobilization initiative anchored by 58 CARES affiliates across 26 states, and Seattle CARES Mentoring Movement is our local affiliate that will be partnering with the Our Best initiative to support the recruitment and training of African American men, totaling 156, where we have an opportunity to implement our culturally anchored trauma-informed wellness mentoring best practices to improve the life outcomes of young black men and boys. What makes our work so specific and worthwhile from our lens is that we utilize A New Way Forward Healing What's Hurting Black America curricula. It's a training protocol which undergirds our group mentoring programs, and it was created by subject matter experts, 60 of them, to develop a trauma-informed manual which also allows us to leverage wraparound supports, engage communities, and support our young people with caring adults so that they are fortified and able to withstand and overcome barriers to their success. What I will also add there is that the topics that are in this curricula are rooted in racial pride, which allows our boys to learn critical social and emotional skills share their triumphs and tribulations, and to just simply be heard and acknowledged whilst receiving support from their peers, volunteer mentors, and then wellness experts who may stand in during those wellness mentoring circles. We are truly grateful to the City of Seattle for recognizing that the Seattle Cares Mentoring Movement's primary value add to the local field would be really leveraging the best practices and technical assistance from our national office to really help to move the initiative forward. We are very fortunate at the moment to be in another partnership with the Campaign for Black Male Achievement in support of Black male mentor recruitment, working with the Oakland Unified School District and the Sacramento Unified Schools District. And I'm sure those of you who are deeply embedded in this work recognize the genius of those like Chris Chapman and Dr. Stacy Bell, Marcus Struther, Phyllis Hubbard, and Dr. Sean Ginwright. So it's really an opportunity for us to leverage those learnings to support the work that's going on in Seattle, while also leveraging some of the best practices that we've supported, aligning with the City of Newark and their My Brother's Keeper initiative. When I was the Executive Director of Mentoring USA, was in alignment with the Campaign for Black Male Achievement to support the Young Men's Initiative in the City of New York. And then we are also in a national partnership at the time, a technical assistance relationship with Verizon to provide training and best practices to 16 universities. 13 of those universities are historically black colleges, and then 3 of those universities are minority-serving institutions. So we're able to take all of these learnings to best support the Our Best initiative. I will be joining the Seattle leaders in 2 weeks for a retreat on capacity building. Our local affiliates have been very successful in recruiting men at the local Emoja Fest and Kent Cornucopia, which just recently happened. And they're also going to build upon an existing relationship with the University of Washington, where they've engaged athletes to support male mentorship. And we're looking at this as an opportunity to leverage some of our high-profile relationships and wraparound support to bring this right in and ride the momentum into National Mentoring Month in January, where we can do a very large, robust mentor recruitment campaign in support of this initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Powell, for a great presentation on CARES mentoring movement, both in Seattle and the work that's being done nationally.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of our presenters for really bringing the story of Seattle and your movement for Black male achievement to the forefront on this call. We deeply appreciate your time. We do have a few minutes for questions. If anyone on the call has questions, we're asking you to please type them into the Q&A box, and our presenters are happy to answer any questions that may come up right now. So we'll give everyone maybe a minute or two. If you have questions, please type them in, and we will try to get them answered within the next few minutes. We'll give maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, another minute for any questions that may come up. Okay, we do have a question for Anthony. Can you say more about the Black male curriculum? I'm sure this question is for Anthony or Dr. Jones about the Black male curriculum. Let's unmute.
Yeah, this is Anthony, and I invite Dr. Jones if he wants to just say more about this. Then we can ebb and flow with this as well. Yeah, so the work that Brother Chris Chapman and his team have done have really captivated the national attention around really culturally responsive, paradigm-shifting, leading just practices for serving black boys well within systems. Systems really that were never really sort of built to enable black boys to thrive. So the model that they've done, we've facilitated a number of sort of study missions, if you will, and delegations to really kind of build with them and attend their symposia that they've hosted with folks from around the country. And as we've learned about their model, we've taken youth, parents, community-based organizations, funders, principals, central office leaders, leaders from the county, our higher education system, as well as the city. And it's really caught on. And local leadership really wanted to adopt some of their practices and really pilot, aspects of what they're doing. And so they have a really powerful curriculum that they've sort of honed in on. And so we've got 4 principals that we're excited to adopt the curriculum and partner with Oakland Unified School District through the Seattle Public School System and implement the curriculum integrate these elective courses within the school day, and provide them for black males, to really move the academic needle, social emotional needle for black males at their schools. And so this is going to entail a series of professional development offerings, as well as, like I said, access to the curriculum, and we're really looking forward to this partnership with Oakland Unified School District over the next few years. Dr. Jones, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
No, that's a thorough summary. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony. We have another question. This question is for you, Stephen. How can cities without a National Cares affiliate get connected?
I'd actually like to know which city that is, because there may be an opportunity for you to start an affiliate, and we can certainly begin that process. Would you happen to know which city is sending that inquiry?
We do not, but we'll ask and we'll get back to that question.
Sure.
Okay. Whoever asked the question, if you can type in what city you're calling from or referring to, and we'll get back to your question shortly. We have another question. Can all of the presenters please provide the callers with their email addresses? We'll be happy to make sure we have contact information so people can reach out if needed. Is that okay with our presenters to help answer any questions?
That's fine by me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hey, Sister Latrina?
Yes.
If I may add something to the question that was posed to me about the curriculum.
Sure.
Just to make it really clear, so the Seattle Public School System, they're launching these elective classes, and, our Department of Education and Early Learning, we're the ones that really providing the funding for the professional development and the curriculum. What I failed to also say is one of the stalwarts in our best really needs to be sort of given some shine. Brother Davis spoke a little about it, but it's really Dr. Bell from KC Family Programs. Part of the work that we're leveraging, I mentioned earlier that this is a public-private investment. The city is investing in this professional development and this curriculum, and also some seed dollars from KC are really primarily responsible for making this happen as well. So we have both a match from private philanthropy and also the city to really support the district's interest in launching this opportunity for black males in the school, just to make it crystal clear for folks.
Great. Thank you very much. To go back to the question for Stephen about how cities without a National Cares affiliate can get connected, the individual is talking about Milwaukee. If you'd like to address the National Cares affiliates in Milwaukee.
Yes, we actually have an affiliate in Milwaukee that we would connect them to, and I did get a text message from an old friend in the field, Chandra Pitts, down in Wilmington, Delaware, and they're inquiring, and she's done a lot of fantastic work around male mentor engagement and community engagement. So, Chandra, I will definitely reach out to you and your team. But I definitely feel free to share my email address with anyone on the call that is interested in starting an affiliate. We certainly would welcome that. And so my email address is spowell, SPOWELL, @caresmentoring.org. And I'm sure the CBMA team will go ahead and send those emails out as well of all the other presenters.
Great. Thank you. So we have time for one more question. And any presenter can answer this question. What mechanisms have been developed to bring in Black men who live in Seattle to assist in these programs?
By calling them out. Bring them out. Bring them out.
Brother Shoecraft.
Yep. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to, but I've been talking a lot as well. But I would just say really quickly, one mechanism is the Our Best Advisory Council. While it's comprised of Black men and women, that range from grassroots organizations and organizers all the way to philanthropy in the private sector. That's one mechanism as well. And no doubt, we're going to through our partnership with CARES is going to serve to be another mechanism to leverage the expertise and presence of Black men that we know is out here in service to our mentoring campaign and goals.
This is Gregory Davis. I know one of the things that I'll add is what is happening in the city around this pillar that Anthony cited called positive connections, and the city is looking for 160 of its Black men to serve as mentors in this campaign. And so the city is looking internally to really be a catalyst for bringing Black men, particularly in this case Black professionals, to the table to help support the Black male achievement work.
Great. Thank you. So if there are other questions, we will definitely forward those questions on to our presenters to answer at a later time. I want to thank the presenters again for your time, your energy, and all the information you provided on this call. And I want to turn it over to Sheba Rogers again from CBMA to close us out.
So this is going to be Chris Rutherford, but next week I just wanted to have a call to action. So a major focus of our Promise of Place work is being able to track progress and movement in the field of Black male achievement and success across a variety of sectors. And one way that we do that is through hearing from local leaders like yourself. So please, the CBMA City Field Building Blocks Assessment is a survey that we ask local stakeholders to complete to keep CBMA informed of the work on the ground. The link is included here on the slide, so as a follow-up to the webinar, we will also send you a link to the CBMA City Field Building Blocks Assessment. And last slide, please, Latrina. Before we close today, we want to express our gratitude and appreciation for each of you for joining us today. On behalf of the CBMA team, we want to extend a big thank you to our speakers, Brothers Anthony Shoecraft, Gregory Davis, Dr. Brent Jones, and Stephen Powell for providing your insight on the important topic today. It is great to hear how deeply committed and involved you are to support our Black men and boys, and much success to all of you in your work moving forward. We also want to send a special thank you to our CEO and fierce leader, Sean Dove, for his leadership and for paving the way for CBMA to carry out this important work. Also, if you're not already a member, please do sign up on our website. Once you sign up, you will begin receiving our monthly newsletters and invitations to the monthly network call and many other resources. We look forward to remaining in touch with you. Thank you all for your time today. Have a great afternoon.
You as well.